Alright, so now we're going to bust out the India ink and grab this dip pen. I find these dip pens are fun to use because they are very unpredictable. The lines aren't always perfect. Sometimes you get these little scratchy marks. Sometimes your lines don't even connect at all. And I just find that really charming, and I don't know, I just love it. So I'm doing just these kind of botanical floral designs, kind of branches, I guess, all throughout this page. And this is another one. All of these are very meditative. So you're not really having to think about anything. You're kind of just letting your hand sort of go and draw and make shapes. And, sometimes they make shapes the way that you want, and other times, like this, it's not exactly what I was going for. But it doesn't really matter. And it's all about just, again, going with the flow and letting things work. Or, letting your supplies, I guess, work. And just sort of having fun and relaxing. And knowing that this isn't going to be some final masterpiece, right? This will get broken up into a bunch of different pieces and go on to a bunch of different collages, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. Another great thing about the dip pen is you would think that you would have to dip it a lot more than you actually do, but at the beginning when you're using it, the lines are going to be a little thicker and a little darker because you've just dipped it into some ink. And then as you go, they're going to get thinner and more scratchy as the ink is kind of running out. Because I want to fill this page up, I'm kind of just continuously adding branches as I'm going and trying to, bring them up to the top of the page in a way that makes sense. And this is another time where I want to use as much of the real estate as I can and just have fun and chill out while I'm doing it. You could also use, I have this bamboo pen over there. That's like the tannish kind of bamboo piece. And I haven't really used that a whole lot. So that's the only reason why I'm not using it here. I feel like you have to dip it more because it doesn't hold as much of the ink. But I also feel like I'm probably not using it right. So, but it is an option if you have one and know how to use it. You could definitely use that. I also have, so my dip pen that I got came with a bunch of different nibs. So if you wanted to try out the different nibs and see what all they do, that is another option as well. It was actually pretty inexpensive. I think I either got it at Michael's or on Amazon, and it was really pretty cheap. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get something like this. I would say maybe $10. And it's just a little plastic pen thing and then the metal nibs. So nothing too crazy, and it gives you some pretty fun results. So now that we filled up that page, I'm going to swap over to the newsprint. Now this paper is a lot more porous, so it's going to soak up more of that ink, but it's not like significantly different. It's just more porous. So you may want to, think about that when you're, doing your drawing. But I wasn't really sure where I wanted to start with this one. I knew like branches and whatever, but I like started doing the same thing I had been doing, and then I went into like the circles and stuff like that. So I ended up going with the kind of circle-y leaves, and right now they kind of remind me of coffee beans as I'm drawing them, because they're circles with these lines through them, and it's just kind of reminds me, I guess, of like a coffee bean, how it has like that split down the middle and it's not like super perfect. So I'm doing my tree of coffee beans, and I could leave it that way, you could leave it that way. We're gonna kind of go through this whole paper and fill it with different branches. But when I normally doodle like stuff like this in my journal, I fill up all of the spaces with lines. So I don't just leave the circles as they are. I add, some lines to fill them up. And I'll do that also, like if I draw like different kinds of leaves, I'll fill them up with lines. And I think that gives just an interesting effect to what you're drawing, and just makes it more, it could make it more busy. I think if I wanted to do the lines and I didn't fill every circle, I think that would be distracting and be more busy. But because I fill every circle, I feel like it is all pretty cohesive and works together. And you'll see what I mean as we get to that part. Alright, so magically I have filled up the whole page with some branches and some leaves, and here I'm just adding little lines like I was talking about in the circles. This is going to be really kind of dainty, so maybe you would want to change your nib. I would try to go with something that's not too pokey, because those pointy ones could break through the paper really easily. The nib that I'm using isn't as pointy, and it's kind of like more flat, so it's easier to control and not like poke holes through the paper. And this may seem really tedious, but to me it's really, like I've said, really relaxing, and I love the end result. And due to like the size that I normally work in, I normally, like when I'm collaging and making things, I normally work pretty small. And look at that, you can see everything is all filled up, it looks cohesive, nothing is too crazy and busy, and that's what I like about it. And I'm just going to take this other paint pen, it's a Art paint pen, and I'm going to draw some different botanicals, and we'll add some lines and stuff like that. But because of the scale that I generally work in, I don't use these papers up very quickly. So, you know, I'm taking a lot of time and, you know, spending a while making these papers, but they're going to last me a long time, and they're getting my hand moving and making me creative, getting me creative and making marks and doing something that I enjoy and something that relaxes me, and kind of helps me calm down. Maybe at the end of the day, I can sit on the couch with my husband and watch TV and just draw and doodle and kind of mindlessly do that while we're hanging out together. So there's just a bunch of perks to just hanging out, doodling, and making marks. So this is definitely one of my top favorite things to do, and I hope that you've also enjoyed this, and maybe it'll become one of your top favorite things to do.